Welcome back to Adventures in Randomia, my solo Dungeons & Dragons adventure series. This is episode 19, in which our party discovers that the night shift are onto them, and as they head further west towards the lake, they encounter a disturbing event in the hills. I hope you enjoy it, and please do let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you can catch the rest of the series. Last time, having rescued a dwarf hunter's eagle companion from the Dunlin Hills bandits, the party made their way to his village of Airy Top. They were warmly welcomed and rewarded for their actions. Just before dawn, Freya was summoned by a giant spirit eagle to engage in solo combat on a rocky crag just outside the village. She narrowly defeated the eagle and was rewarded with a feather totem, which grants her the blessing of the eagle in combat. We rejoin the party as they gather at the inn for breakfast. Having carefully placed the feather totem into her pocket, Freya follows the others into the village and joins them at the inn. As she enters, Clarissa calls out, "Freya, I ordered you a bacon sandwich. I hope that's okay." "Oh, yeah, great," replies Freya. "Thanks." Freya is unusually quiet and thoughtful this morning. "Freya, was there any more disturbance last night?" asks Clarissa. Oh, no. I kept a lookout, but I didn't see anyone." "What's that you say?" says Connor. "There was a disturbance in the night." Clarissa explains that she thought she saw someone watching the camp during her watch and wondered if it was a night shift spy. She's unsure now, though. Maybe it was just a creature snuffling about amongst the trees. "You were asleep this morning, Freya, when we woke up," says Connor. "I hope you didn't miss anything." Oh, yeah. I must have just nodded off for a wee bit." "Well, maybe we should ask the villagers if they've seen any strangers," says Wilfred. "That's a great idea," says Clarissa. They finish their breakfast and then go over to talk to the bartender. "Excuse me," Wilfred asks, "have there been any reports of a stranger lurking around the village?" So we roll the dice to check if there have been any reports of a stranger. We get a 14, so yes, there have. Then we roll on the NPC tables to find out who saw this stranger. And we get an old male herbalist. Then I'm going to roll on keywords to find out what this stranger was doing. We get the words wilderness, luminescent, celebration, and release. The bartender replies to Wilfred, "Well now, lad, it's funny you should ask that. I bumped into Agar, our village shaman and herbalist, early this morning. He lives on the edge of the village, close to the wilderness. He was saying he saw someone in the woods behind his hut before dawn this morning, acting suspicious. He saw him release a light into the air." Says Clarissa. "That does sound a bit odd." "Well, I reckon it was just someone practicing for the Midsummer Festival celebration. Agar is well known for seeing something mysterious when none exists." "Oh, how does this light link to the festival?" asks Wilfred. "Well, you see, there's a festival happening in the next day or so in the nearest town of Gilmere, down by the lake. People often go visit from here. Part of the celebration involves releasing a floating golden lantern in the air. I reckon Agar just saw someone doing a practice run like. You should go check out the festival if you're travelling that way. Definitely worth a visit." Says Clarissa. "I'd like to speak to this Hagar." "Sure, I expect he'll be back at his cottage by now." And he gives them directions to the old shaman's hut. They thank him and pay for their breakfast and head outside. So we roll the dice to check the weather for the day. We get a 6. It's dull and cool with rain showers. They walk over to the far side of the village, their feet squelching in the soggy ground following a sudden heavy downpour of rain. They see a small rustic cottage with stone walls covered in ivy and a thatched roof, standing a little away from the other buildings. Behind the cottage is a dense copse of trees. As they approach, they see an old dwarf with a long white plaited beard returning with a basket full of herbs. He wears a dark moss-coloured cloak and has his hood up to protect from the rain. Freya realises this is the old shaman who spoke to her cryptically the previous day before her encounter with the eagle. Clarissa and Wilfred go up to the old dwarf. "Oh, hello," he says. "Have you come to buy some herbs, or potions, or maybe you want to roll the runes for some guidance?" he says as he glances at Freya. "No," replies Clarissa. "We've come to talk to you. The tavern keeper tells us you saw something strange this morning in the woods behind your hut." "Oh, yes, it was just before dawn. I saw a stranger releasing a luminescent orb up into the sky. It looked very suspicious. Then they just disappeared off into the trees." Could it have been someone releasing a summer festival lantern? Asked Wilfred. Oh no, definitely not. It looked like some magical orb floating up in the sky. Magical orb? Whispers Clarissa. I wonder. Do you mind if we go search the spot in the woods? Not at all, the dwarf replies. It's this way. The others follow him round to the back of the cottage and he points into the trees. About 30 paces that way, he says. They go to the spot amongst the trees that he's pointed out. So we roll a check for perception. Clarissa gets a 14 and Wilfred an 8. Clarissa has a good scout around but can't see anything suspicious amongst the trees. Clarissa, Wilfred and Connor start to head back to their camp. You three go on ahead. I just want to talk to this old dwarf about something, says Freya. Don't tell me you want your runes read, Freya, laughs Connor. Oh, no, get away, Connor. I just have a few questions. As the other three walk away, the shaman fixes his gaze on Freya with a twinkle in his eye. You want to consult with me, lass? You knew, didn't you, about the eagle? How did you know that? I had a feeling you were being called by the great eagle spirit. What happened? Freya tells a story of the eagle calling her to the rocky outcrop and of their battle. She shows the old shaman the feather totem that she received. Oh, lass, you've been blessed. You now have a connection with the great eagle spirit. They will protect you and give you their power when you need it. This is the start of a great journey for you. But I'm just a dwarf with a big axe. Why is the eagle spirit interested in me? Were you not taught by your people about great animal spirits and the path of the totem warrior? No, I've never heard about any of that. My people only ever talk about blacksmithing and treasure hunting and of course brewing beer. Well, it seems like you've been chosen by the animal spirits. It's an ancient tradition in many dwarven clans. Honour this gift and it will turn you into a formidable warrior. Oh, right. Freya doesn't know what else to say to this, so she changed the subject. You said you had some potions for sale. What have you got? The shaman shows her a great variety of potions with amazing effects. Oh, those sound great. How much? Asked Freya. However, even the cheapest is 500 gold. Well, these are a bit beyond my pocket. Do you have anything else cheaper? The shaman gives her 2 standard healing potions in exchange for 100 gold. Okay, thanks, says Freya, and she heads back towards the camp, wondering why this shaman lives in such a shabby old hut when their potions can fetch so much gold. Meanwhile, the others are walking back to the camp. Clarissa shares her idea about what the stranger in the woods was doing. Did you hear him say that it looked like a magical orb? She says. Oh, yes, I did, says Wilfred. Could that be linked to the magical orbs we found in those smuggled crates? Yes, I was thinking that a spy could use a sending spell in an orb to send back information to the night shift, says Clarissa. Says Connor. In that case, that means the night shift leadership are onto us. This is bad news. And we've left the camp unguarded. Quick, let's get back there. So they hurry back to the camp. So we ask the question, is the spy at the camp when they return? We roll a 1, so this is no and. Then we ask, is there any evidence that the spy has been snooping at the camp? We roll a 20, so this is yes and. As they arrive, the camp appears empty, and apparently as they left it. They all scout about to see if there's evidence of disturbance there. Wilfred rolls a 15 for investigation, and Connor a 2. They look inside the tents and check all their belongings. Wilfred makes a thorough check of things. Connor takes a cursory look. Neither of them see anything suspicious. Clarissa rolls a 25 for perception. She scours the area around the camp, looking for signs of the spy. She goes over to the cart, and with her high perception, she spots that the pin securing the cartwheel on the axle has been removed. Oh no, look at this, she says. The cartwheel fixing has been sabotaged. Connor and Wilfred come over to look. Can you fix it magically, Clarissa? Asks Connor. Well, I don't think so. The pin is missing. I can only mend things that have a tear or a split in them. At this point, Freya returns. Freya, says Clarissa, you know about carts, don't you? Is there a way to fix this? Oh, the pin has been removed. We would need to get a new one to secure the wheel. Otherwise it could just fall off at any moment while we're on the road. Well, there's a blacksmith just over there, says Wilfred, pointing to a building not far away with smoke pouring out from the chimney. Would they be able to fix it? Oh, yes, says Freya, and she runs off to the blacksmith to get a new pin. While she's gone, the others take down the tents and clear away the camp. So we ask the question, is Freya able to get the metal pin? We get a 16, so yes she can. Freya soon returns with a small metal rod that is slightly thicker at one end than the other. She pushes it through the hole in the axle, and then uses the haft of her axe to hammer it in until it's tight. There, she says, that should hold now. Good, we best get on the road, says Connor. Before we go, is there a way to send a message to the other Quillians? Says Wilfred. I'm getting worried that the night shift may have done something bad to them, like maybe they attacked the Dusty Quill. Oh yes, says Clarissa. I can use the sending spell now. I should have thought of that sooner. So the party all sit around the remains of the campfire while Clarissa casts her sending spell. Freya is counting off the words on her fingers. Ginny, Clarissa here. We are being followed by a night shift spy. They tried to sabotage our cart. Is everything well in Everpool? Please reply. Oh, Clarissa, says Freya, you're a natural. That was exactly 25 words. Before we hear Ginny's reply, let's check what's been happening back in Everpool. So firstly we ask the question, has the Dusty Quill been attacked? We get a 9, so this is no but. So let's roll on keywords to find out in what way have the night shift acted. We get the words proof, memory, slime and foot. This suggests the bookshop owner, Ned, found some proof of the night shift having been in his shop. Maybe there was a slimy boot print on the floor, and something had been moved from where he remembered placing it. In a few moments, Clarissa hears Ginny's reply to her message. Hi, Clarissa. Ned found evidence of the night shift snooping at the shop. Can't tell if anything was taken. We're keeping watch. Please be careful. Clarissa relays this to the others. So we ask the question, did the Quillians keep any important information at the shop? We get a 16. Wilfred says, oh no, we kept important information in a safe box in the basement room. I hope they weren't able to find it. Now knowing that the night shift are onto them and are on their trail, the party sets off again quickly, hoping to reach the shore of Lake Illuminata by nightfall. They decide to head for the town of Gilmere, having heard about the festival happening there. They all climb onto the cart. Freya has hold of the reins, with Clarissa sitting next to her. Connor and Wilfred are sat in the back of the cart. Freya expertly steers the cart back down the steep hill from the village, and soon they rejoin the main cart track. Clarissa and Wilfred keep a lookout for the spy, both ahead of them and behind. Clarissa rolls a 9 for perception, and Wilfred 11. They scan the fields and the trees around them, but they can't see anything. The visibility is not great today due to the bad weather. Soon we enter the next hex, and we roll on the terrain table, and we get a 53, so this means continuing hills. Also we check for an encounter, we get a 56, so all is quiet on this part of the journey. The old cart track winds down through the grassy slopes, studded with wild flowers, towards the valley that runs through the Dunlin Hills. Despite being summer, it is an overcast and blustery day. Towering dark clouds march across the sky, driven by a fresh breeze. The party is intermittently soaked by heavy downpours of rain. After a few hours of travel, we enter the next hex. We roll on a terrain table, and this time we get a 67, which is a medium-sized lake. And with a 32, again there is no encounter in this hex. After some hours of rugged travel, the old cart track finally converges with the stone road that stretches from Everpool to Gilmere. Alongside the road, a vast lake shimmers in the muted light, its placid surface fed by a gushing river cascading down from the towering peaks of the Spine Mountains above. They decide to make a quick stop for lunch by the lake, and Clarissa and Wilfred continue to check for signs of the night shift spy. This time, Clarissa rolls a 15 for perception and Wilfred a 7. They still don't see any signs of anyone following them. After lunch, they continue west along the stone road. As we enter the next hex, we roll on the terrain table, and we get a 94, which is a landscape feature. A further roll reveals this to be a waterfall, and a roll of 65 shows that again there is no encounter in this area. They push on into the afternoon with the weather worsening. They hear the gushing of the river running through rapids alongside the road. A series of small crashing waterfalls cascade along its course, sparkling in the light as the water rushes down towards the shimmering expanse of Lake Illuminata. It's now late afternoon as they enter the next hex, and it looks like they're not going to make it to Gilmere by nightfall, so they start looking out for a good spot to camp. We roll on a terrain table and discover there's a monument in this area. A further roll of 12 reveals that this is some kind of altar or pedestal, and a roll of 21 shows that they encounter something here. We roll on the wilderness encounter table to discover what it is that they find here. We get an 82, which is a track leading off the road to a grassy plateau. They turn off the road and proceed down the track in the hope of finding a good camping place. As they veer off the main road, the track beneath them becomes softer, and the cartwheels sink into the muddy grass. The late afternoon light casts long shadows across the land, and below them an old stone monument, which appears to be some sort of altar, stands solemn and weathered against the stormy sky. In front of it, a small pond glimmers, catching the fleeting rays of the sun as it emerges from beneath the heavy clouds. Through the golden haze, they spot a distant silhouette of a horse and cart beneath a gnarled tree. A wisp of smoke curls from a campfire near a couple of tents. Yet, as they draw nearer, the shifting light plays tricks on their eyes, blurring the details of the figures moving in the fire's glow. "Oh, it looks like someone's already beaten us to this spot," says Freya. "Well, I'm sure there's room for more than one group to camp," replies Clarissa. We then roll on the wilderness event table to discover what they meet at this camp. We get a 79, which is a plague of insects, vermin, or some other creature. Suddenly, a panicked cry cuts through the air, and they see a young woman sprinting desperately up the path towards them. Her face is pale with terror. "Help! Please help us!" she cries. "My friends are being attacked!" Behind her, two vicious-looking gnolls give chase, their distorted forms silhouetted against the golden haze of the sun. Their mottled fur is streaked with filth, and their jagged weapons are clutched tight in clawed hands. A monstrous hyena charges ahead of them, its jaws snarling and snapping at the woman's heels. So we roll for initiative, and Clarissa takes the lead. Seeing the young woman in distress, Clarissa immediately jumps off the wagon and uses her feline agility to close in quickly on the gnolls. She casts Sacred Flame on the snarling hyena. A pillar of radiant fire erupts from the sky, slamming into the beast with a searing crackle. The creature lets out a shrill yelp as the holy energy engulfs it, its fur burning away in an instant as it collapses into the mud. Freya goes into a rage with a fierce battle cry that echoes like the screech of an eagle. She vaults from the wagon and her boots hit the muddy road with a thud, but she barely pauses as she uses her action to charge towards the gnolls, her great axe held high. Panting and wide-eyed with terror, the young woman continues to sprint up the path. She casts a frantic glance over her shoulder as she approaches Freya. "Keep running!" shouts Freya. "Get to the cat!" The closest gnoll snarls, and its yellow eyes glint with malice as it swiftly knocks an arrow to its crude longbow. With a guttural bark, it looses the arrow, which whizzes through the air towards Freya. However, the tip merely grazes her arm and does little damage. Wilfred leaps from the cart and lands lightly on the muddy road, his boots splashing in a shallow puddle as he runs forward. Eyes narrowing, he uses insightful fighting to improve his attack against the gnoll warrior. He swiftly raises his hand crossbow and squeezes the trigger. The bolt whistles through the damp air and buries itself deep into the gnoll's side, and does extra damage with a sneak attack. The creature lets out a guttural snarl, staggering as the pain flares through its ribs. "Nice one, Wilfred," calls Connor. "You're definitely improving with that crossbow." The gnoll shaman, its matted fur adorned with crude talismans of bone and feather, snarls an incantation in its guttural tongue and casts infestation. Suddenly, the air around Freya rises with a swarm of biting and chittering insects. However, with a furious shake of her shoulders, she scatters the creatures before they can take hold. Finally, it's Connor's turn. He jumps down from the cart and peers down the hill into the setting sun. In the distance, he can see more gnolls and hyenas at the campsite below. "Keep your heads down, girls," he says. "I'm going to throw a fireball on all of them." "No, Connor," cries Clarissa. "Can't you see there are other travellers in that camp? They're being held captive by the gnolls. If you fireball that area, you will kill them all. Just target the gnolls." "Damn, you've got better eyes than me, Clarissa. All right then." Connor uses a sorcery point to twin a chaos bolt at the two nearest gnolls. He thrusts a hand toward the gnoll shaman, unleashing a bolt of swirling fire. The flames strike the shaman's mangy hide, singeing its fur and making it snarl in pain, though it remains standing. Without pausing, he then raises the other hand towards the gnoll warrior, sending another chaos bolt lancing through the air. This one crackles with raw lightning, arcing straight into the gnoll's chest. The warrior convulses as the electricity courses through its body, and then collapses in a smoking heap onto the grass. As the initial action of the combat subsides, Freya and Clarissa turn their gaze to the valley below them, to see a horrifying sight starting to unfold. At the far side of the campsite, a gnoll packlord, towering and formidable, restrains a stout dwarf, whose face is twisted in a grimace of pain and defiance. The Pack Lord's massive claws grip the dwarf's arms, pinning him in place with cruel strength. Nearby, another Gnoll warrior has an older male human in its grasp. The man, despite his age, shows no sign of giving up, but his strength is quickly waning as the Gnoll's claws dig into his flesh, holding him captive. At the front of the camp, a female halfling and a young human male are being held by two more Gnoll warriors. The young human struggles, fear evident on his face, but both are pinned in place by the Gnoll's brutal strength. Beside each restrained captive, a slavering hyena prowls in anticipation, its matted fur bristling, jaws dripping with hunger. In the centre of the camp, a very large, ugly Gnoll with burning red eyes lets out a blood-curdling howl. This is a Fang of Yeenoghu, a monstrosity of a transformed Gnoll created through a demonic ritual to the demon lord Yeenoghu. The victims of this creature can then be fed upon by hyenas to create new Gnolls, in an echo of the original creation of Gnolls by Yeenoghu. This monstrous creature lunges forward towards the dwarf with terrifying speed. Its massive jaws snap shut with brutal force, sinking razor-sharp teeth into the dwarf's shoulder. A deep, ragged wound opens as the blood seeps into the dwarf's tunic. The dwarf grits his teeth against the pain as the poison from the bite tries to burn through his veins. However, he shakes it off with sheer dwarven resilience, refusing to succumb to its corrupting influence. With a frenzied howl, the Fang turns its bloodthirsty gaze to the older human. With savage force, it rakes its talons across the man's chest, tearing through cloth and flesh alike. The human cries out in agony. His knees buckle, and with a choking gasp, he collapses to the ground, unmoving. The Fang growls in frustration, seeing that its first victim is still alive. It lunges again at the restrained dwarf, its claws seeking flesh. But despite the advantage, the blow glances off the dwarf's jerkin, leaving only a shallow scrape. The dwarf, with tears now running down his face, looks up to the sky and appears to be making a desperate plea to his deity. However, having taken the human down, the Fang is able to use its bonus action to rampage. With sickening speed, it lunges forward again, jaws clamping down on the dwarf's throat before he can even react. The Fang releases its grip, letting the body slump to the ground beside the fallen human. Its blood-stained muzzle lifts to the sky, and with a spine-chilling howl of triumph, celebrates the slaughter in the name of the demon lord Yeenoghu. This terrifying, grotesque Gnoll then turns and begins to leer towards the other two travellers in the camp. Carissa's voice cuts through the chaos with urgency. "Quickly, we must save them," she cries. With the dwarf slain at its feet, the Pack Lord turns its attention to the approaching adventurers. He moves forward towards the edge of the camp, and a wicked sneer curls across his scarred muzzle. He barks out some orders to the others before throwing back his head and unleashing a blood-curdling howl that echoes through the hills. A primal call to slaughter. And there we will leave our adventurers for now, as they desperately move into action to rescue the travellers from a grisly fate in the clutches of the Gnolls. Tune in again next time to find out where this story goes.